Wow, I have an amazing show for you today. I know I say that every time, but this one is a little different. It's not so much interview style, but it's like a motivational speech, like the talk that you need if you have been thinking about getting started, if you are distracted by the shiny objects. This episode it's gonna change everything. I'm really proud of this episode. I didn't talk as much because I really wanted to take it in and I did not want to interrupt. I wanted to listen. It was that good. So make sure that you listen at least twice. Watch the interview because I want you to see Rod in as he's sharing his passion for life. It's not only real estate, which of course we love, but his passion and zest for life. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, listen, and then let me know. What was your favorite part from the podcast. I know I'll be listening at least twice because it was that good. So go ahead, listen to the show. If you know that you can also watch on Spotify, and you can also watch on YouTube. I'm so excited to hear from you about this episode. We're gonna have a little bit of a summary on the blog and all the links. Oh my God, Rod shares so many links and resources during his, I want to call it speech because it was really a speech. And we'll make sure to capture all of that. But make sure that you relax. Don't worry, we have all the links for you on the show notes. Listen to the show and then let me know. I'm gonna let you know how you can do that. Just go to Instagram at Catherine Storing and let me know, send me a DM or find the show, the post about the show, and let me know what you like best. All right, go ahead and enjoy it, and I'll see you soon. Hello, Rod. Welcome to the REI Friends podcast. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I love your energy, and I can't wait to have some fun today.
Oh my God, I love it. So for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So let me tell you, I'm going to go back a ways when I tell you my story, just because I think it's going to lend some framework to what we're going to talk about later. And so I'm an immigrant like you, and I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland, wooden shoes and windmills, and immigrated when I was 6 with my brother Albert, my mother Svantje. I remember we came over on a big ship, and I remember my mom crying when she saw the Statue of Liberty, true story. And that's the only memory I have of that trip, actually. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado. And we really struggled at first. I remember we ate expired food. We went to an expired food store. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the mornings because, that's all we could afford. I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I got a job at Burger King because I lied about my age when I was 14 so I could flip burgers and have money so I could buy clothes and then ultimately buy a car. And, I'm sure you've got listeners that had it harder than I did, or maybe have it harder now with all this COVID nonsense. But I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. We always had a house full of kids, but she was an entrepreneur at heart. And so she invested in the stock market successfully. She did IPOs, but she also invested in real estate. And her first real estate acquisition was the house directly across the street from us that she bought when I was about 14 for about $30,000. And when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. It had gone up in value that much. I'm like, what? You made $20,000 and you didn't do anything? I'm getting into real estate, Mom. Forget college. I'm getting into real estate. So I got into real estate. I actually got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. I could have my own office. I was actually a broker. Now they got smart and you need some experience before you can be a broker. But I was a broker. And, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. Okay. My second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy, I was actually dating his daughter, that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how truly 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate stuff or the entrepreneurship or the investing or whatever it is. You have to actually take action with what you learn. Okay. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned 2,000 houses I've rented long-term. And now I own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I thought I was a freaking real estate god. I thought my head got so big, I could barely fit it through a door. And when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008. I lost $50 million in 2008 and conservatively. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast and at my boot camps and everything is the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but then the mindset it took to recover from losing it to get back to, what I'm blessed to have today. And so I'm happy to drill down on that with you, Kat, if you'd like.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much for giving us that big view of where you come from. So
Sure.
You remember being that little boy and struggling, and then your mom sharing that story, how she made money while she slept, and you tried real estate. How was it you being, you were only 6 when you came in and you're trying to sell houses to people that live here? Did you ever have any pushback, or do you have any fear? Like, just
well, sure, I had fear,
yourself?
but I had fear, but I pushed through it. And honestly, what happened was, between year 2 and year 3 was, again, the mindset thing. But what I discovered is, and I teach this, is if you're willing to do what other people won't, you'll be a success. And so what I did was I actually knocked on doors of people that were in foreclosure because I didn't know any better. And I said, hey, I saw you having some trouble, and, I help people when they're in trouble like this. And, and I can list your house for sale and sell it so you don't have this on your record, or I can buy it or whatever. And I bought 500 houses that way, in Denver. I wish I still had those houses in Denver. Anyway, but that's another story. But the point is, I was willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. But let me tell you what, let me give you a couple of mindset principles, because if you come to one of my boot camps, and by the way, I've got one coming up in Denver, July 29th, 30th, and 31st. And I'll tell your peeps how they can come real cheap. I mean, it's $197 for 3 days of training, and I don't sell anything. There's no sales pitch. So it's kind of a no-brainer, and I'll tell you how to get there in a little bit. But when you come, the first thing we're going to do is goal setting on steroids, because how the heck do you get anything if you don't know what it is, right? You got to know what it is that you want. You've got to have what Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich calls a burning desire. You've got to want it. Okay. The only way you're going to push through fear, the only way you're going to push through limiting beliefs that you may have, or to get uncomfortable. We know the comfort zone's a warm place, but nothing grows there, right? You've got to push past that. And the only way to push past that is to have that burning desire. You got to know what you want and why you want it, which is why we do, the goal setting first. Because, you've got to know with clarity what you want. And like I say, you've got to know why you want it. And so, and then, and I can describe that process for you if you like. But I will tell you this, I did this, if you don't want to come to the boot camp, I did this on January 1st. I do it every year on the 1st. I did it on January 1st this year. And I professionally done with music, with a guide you can download, just that whole process. If you want to, do that with me, which is incredible to do by yourself or with your significant other. If you've got kids that are over 10, 12 years old, have them do it. Just go to rodslinks.com, rods plural, rodslinks.com. And it's down at the bottom of that. That's got all my links of all the stuff that I do on there. But at the bottom is that goal setting workshop along with the guide that you can download. It's very powerful. I'm very proud of it. And, and I mean, I'm happy to describe the process as well, if you'd like, but that's the first step. You've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. Yeah.
That's powerful. So when you were talking about, like, you bought 500 houses just like that, people that were in foreclosure, did you keep any of, like, when did you buy your first property for you?
18. I was 18 years old. I bought my first house when I was 18. I might've been 19. Actually, forgive me. I might've bragged. That might've been 19. Actually, now that I think about it for a minute, it was $30,000 as well. It was a piece of junk. That woman had cats, and it had a crawl space, and they peed there. And I don't know if you've ever smelled that, but it is ugly. I was down in that crawl space pouring lye. It was a 100-year-old brick home in Denver, Northwest Denver. Oh, it was a piece of junk. I remember it was off 38th Avenue in Denver. Wow. I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but yeah, wow. And again, it's so easy again to get caught up in fear and not take action. And we talked about this before we started recording, or limiting beliefs. When I immigrated to this country, I got thrown into school and I didn't speak English, and I found out what bullies were for the first time. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest, the lederhosen. And so I got my butt kicked again. And then they chased me home from school, and she chased them off with a fly swatter next day, another butt kicking. And so, I came up with this belief that I wasn't good enough. And I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And a lot of people have those limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not, young enough, old enough, analytical enough, whatever. I mean, we all have these, this BS. There's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because they are BS. 99.9% of them don't have any basis in fact, but we believe that they're factual and they hold us back. And so let me say this. If you have one, if you're listening, you've got one of these, drag it out into the daylight when it happens, when it pops up, and look at it with your adult rational mind, and you will burn it up. It'll take a few times, but if you consciously think about it when it happens and you recognize that it's BS, it will diminish and ultimately go away. I mean, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in class, and now I literally speak in front. I'm scheduled to have 1,000 people at that Denver boot camp. I speak in front of thousands of people a year, and at these sold out events. And so, and by the way, on that boot camp, if you're interested, you can come for $197. Like I said, it's not a sales pitch. It is drinking through a fire hose. If you're interested in this multifamily business, it's in Denver. And by the way, Denver's United's hub, so you can fly there nonstop from anywhere, but it's 197. But you've got it. The price is actually going up tonight, and this won't air by the time that happens. So if the price has gone up, remember the code RODFRIEND, okay? And that'll get you the 197 price, because it'll ultimately be about $700. But because you're a friend of Kat's, if you use that code RODFRIEND, you'll get the that price. And again, it's not a sales pitch. I teach every aspect of the business. It's truly a no-brainer if you're interested. And the networking, in the single family space, and again, I've owned 2,000 of them, so I can speak credibly about that space. In single family space, you can do it yourself. Multifamily, you get a large multifamily, it's a team sport. You are definitely going to align with other people to do it. And again, there'll be upwards of 1,000 people there. And so incredible opportunity to network as well. But so once you've got that burning desire, Kat, the next piece is you've got to make a decision. Okay. You can't be on the sidelines wishing. You got to decide. And the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. Okay. Like you're cutting off all other options. If you're going to attack the island, you're burning your ships because you're taking their darn ships home. That's a decision. Okay. It's done. It's not a dip the toe in the water kind of thing. It's not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. It is freaking done. Okay. And then when you make a decision, you've got that 100% commitment. You're like a train on a track. Okay. Now, if you're not committed and you're wishy-washy, you're going to get derailed off track. Right. And so, that commitment gives you clarity. And honestly, when you can do that and own 100% of your life like that, success is inevitable. And so then once you make that decision, it's also important that you play to your strengths. Okay. And in this business, especially my business, multifamily real estate, like, for example, we buy larger apartment complexes, but even anything commercial multifamily is 5 units or more. So even if it's just like a 10 unit, again, it's a team sport. And you're going to want to do what you're good at. And there are lots of things, in this business that you can do. You can be the one that finds the deals. You can be the one that builds relationships with the brokers to get the deals in. You could be the one that goes out there and finds the money, talks to investors to invest in the deals. You could be the person that does the underwriting. Maybe you're analytical. So a lot of hats in this business. Maybe you could be the one that does the asset management after you buy the property to manage the property management company. It's called asset management. So there's a lot of roles that you can play in this. And so, again, it's important that you decide and recognize and play to your strengths. That's super important. And then the next piece really, and you stop me anytime you want here, Kat, I'm rambling, but the next piece is you just got to take that first step. Okay. And like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed, right? Lao Tzu 1,000 years ago said that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and sometimes that's the most important step of your life, and it can completely change your destiny. And, in our business, we have the law of the first deal. And that first deal, it's always the scariest. It always takes the longest. It's the hardest. I just interviewed one of my warriors, one of my coaching students on my podcast, literally right before this. And it took him a year to get the first deal. He has 500 doors now. Okay. It just aired. His name's Samanth. If you listen to by the way, my podcast It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. And I was just telling Kat, we just broke 13 million downloads. So, and I will tell you the reason, even if you're not interested in multifamily, you ought to go check it out, because every week I do a clip called Own Your Power, just about owning your power. It's 5 minutes. There's hundreds of them there. And you give me a week, you give me 5 minutes a week, and I will juice you for the week. I will motivate you. I promise. There's music. They're well done. I'm really proud of them. And so, check those out. Again, it's Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. But, after you take that first step and you play to your strengths, the next thing I want to mention is focus. Okay. And right now, if you're listening to this, and do you put these on YouTube as well for people that are watching? Yeah. So if you're listening or watching, you're a leader. You wouldn't be here if you weren't a leader. Okay. And right now the world needs leaders more than ever. And a critical part of being a leader is directing your focus. I mean, don't get me started on the fake news right now. I mean, the news is not there to inform us. It's there to startle and scare us. And if you're bringing that crap in, that's what's going to grow. Okay. It's critical that you stand guard at the door to your mind to bring in the good stuff, like my Own Your Power clips, or go on YouTube University and listen to motivational stuff. But don't get caught up in that negativity, because again, wherever your focus is going to go is where your energy is going to go. And if you're bringing in negative stuff, that's what's going to grow. I get people who call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I'll say, wrong question. How do you make so much money that the debt's irrelevant? They asked Mother Teresa when she was alive if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. Kind of the same thing, but it's just a different focus, right? And I will tell you, I don't know about you, but I'll be watching a movie and I will be scrolling through social media while I'm watching a movie, which is, and I know I'm not the only one. I'm going to tell you though, here's what's really wrong with that. Your brain is making those micro decisions as you're scrolling, and it kills your ability to focus. And, I get excited about my 13 million downloads. Well, there's a couple of podcasts I listen to. One of them is Joe Rogan. The other one's Tim Ferriss. And, they each get that a week, 13 million downloads a week. But on Tim Ferriss's podcast specifically, he interviews the best of the best in the world. Okay. The best actors, Jamie Foxx, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold, billionaires like Ray Dalio, athletes like Michael Phelps, the swimmer. And I started to hear a pattern. Almost all of them meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? Okay. So focus really is power, guys. So really critical that you manage it and you direct it. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is if you don't love this real estate game yet, you're not sure about it, you can learn to love anything. I tell my students, associate it to hunting for buried treasure. Okay, you can learn to love anything. But let me say this to you. If you can't learn to love it, then for God's sakes, go do something else. Life is too short. Okay, but when you love it, you're going to have passion around it. Okay. And people want to work with people that are passionate. And when you love it, you never work another day in your life, right? Work is play. So that love is critical to your success. So just be sure that you find a piece of this business that juices you, associate pleasure with it, learn to love it. And success, again, is inevitable. When I see two people in a team, typically it's an analytical person in my business with an outgoing person. That's a match made in heaven. I mean, they kill it if they're both playing to their strengths. Again, we're talking commercial multifamily now. But again, if you can't learn to love it, for God's sakes, don't, please. Life is too short. This is not a dress rehearsal. The next thing I'll mention is peer group. Okay, who you hang out with is who you become. I mean, you show me your two best friends, I'll show you who you are. Okay. And I mean, every aspect of your life. I don't just mean financially. I mean, your health, your happiness, everything. And unfortunately, most people will default to the people they work with in their W-2 job or the people they went to school with, and they're not proactively choosing their peers. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes those people will hold you back because of their fear or their jealousy, or they're afraid of losing you, or they're afraid of feeling less than if you succeed. And so be very careful who you allow to influence you. And sometimes it's family. I'll tell you, love your family, but choose your peers, right? Super important. So just be very, very careful who you're around and make sure that they lift you up. They don't pull you down. And be careful who you share your dreams with. Like, my coaching students, my warriors, I've got almost 1,000 of them. And I'm really proud of something. I've only been teaching a little over 4 years. They now own somewhere between 60 and 70,000 units.
Wow.
And it's only in 4 years. I'm really proud of that. I mean, next to my kids, there's nothing I'm more proud of. And I'll tell you, it's because they work together. They're in that incredible peer group. Every day someone's posting in there that they just closed a deal. Today, I just saw one literally right before I came on here. And it's just incredible, that dynamic. So get around people that want more out of life, okay? If you go to Rod's links, you'll see my Facebook group. I've got 45,000 people in the largest multifamily Facebook group, and we don't allow any promotion. But you can go in there and ask questions and meet other people and educate and so on and so forth. Just a power. That's the kind of thing you need to be in. If you're in your town and there's likely a multifamily meetup or a real estate meetup you can go to, you can start your own. Even if the first time it's just you and one other person, it will grow. And you fake it till you make it. If you start something like that, you can just interview people like me to come in and talk shop. And by virtue of the fact that you're hosting it, you're perceived as an expert. Okay, so you're faking it till you make it if you have to. But the point is, get around people that want more. Super important, because that is probably the biggest secret to success in this business. And then
so good. Yeah. It's so good, Rod. I think the first session has been all about the mindset and getting people all excited about their next step. And it sounds like, if I'm getting it right, that you're kind of biased when it comes to multifamily. When do you?
No, I'm totally biased. No, I'm totally biased. I won't buy another home unless it's a second or third home for me personally. It's just easier. It's just, there's so many, the logistics are so much easier. In fact, when I lost everything in 2008, it was the houses that pulled me down. I had 800 houses and I was only at a 30% loan to value. Okay. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar and I still crashed and burned. And I'll tell you why. Let me just explain why. So my houses were 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between along the Gulf Coast of Florida. First of all, Florida has no state income tax. So property taxes are higher, which impact cash flow. I had properties in wind and flood zones, higher insurance, which impacts cash flow. But what really killed me was if I had, these were C-class houses. Okay. So there's A, B, C, and D. D's the hood. C-class, they're older. It's a tougher demographic. They're harder on the properties. And so there's a lot more maintenance. So if I sent a maintenance guy to one of my apartment complexes at that time, all the parts are the same. Plumbing parts, electrical, door locks, windows, it's all the same. So you could stockpile parts and they're in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to send a maintenance guy to one of my houses and it's an hour and a half one way, and then they've got to see what's wrong, go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account. That's another hour maybe. And then, I don't know about you, but anytime Rod tries to fix something, he ends up going to Home Depot more than once. And so, what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. So that really killed me. But then the final straw was most of my tenants were jobbers, contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, and that fell off a cliff in 2008 and 9. So I didn't pay attention to demographics back then. I do now, and just bought a 296 unit asset, and I literally looked where every single person worked and measured them for recession resistance. But that's why I crashed, and that's why after that happened, my multifamily did just fine. I had some apartment complexes; they would have survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses. I'd still own them today. And so, that's why I started my podcast 6 years ago, is to tell people, if you're going to buy and hold, I would encourage you to do multifamily, even if it's just a duplex or a triplex, because, if you've got a house and you're empty, you're 100% vacant. If you've got a triplex and you've got one unit empty, you very often can pay can cover it. So it's just safer. And it's easier to scale. You're going to build faster. And frankly, they're easier to buy because you can use other people's money more easily. So anyway, that's why I like multifamily over single.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that, because I was wondering how you figure that out. So you lose everything. Mm-hmm. What do you do first? Because now you probably are at that point unemployable, right?
No, well, I haven't worked for anyone else since I was 18, honestly, but I did what I just said. I reassociated with what I wanted and why I wanted it. It would have been very easy for me to make my identity about losing the 50 million. And for a while I did, woe is me, and I could even use it. I could even use it for significance. But now I use it to teach. But it could have been my identity. And the power of your identity is incredibly strong. Anything you put the words I am in front of is an identity statement. Now, if you look on my wall here, I have I am the best in the world at what I do. I am a business genius. I am success. Now that's not ego. That's what I'm aspiring to do. So, if you want to build something, an emotion in your body, put the words "I am" in front of it. Like if you're fearful, say "I am courage" and yell it to yourself. It'll get into the fiber of your being. I'm telling you, this stuff works. In fact, when people come to my live events, they ask that's the one question they ask my kids. Does he really do that shit? Does he really yell that stuff? Yes, he does. Yeah, I used to run down the street yelling this stuff. But then again, this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got it back. Okay. So, you can laugh at it and maybe think it's woo and foofy, but I visualize. I've got vision boards behind my green screen here. And and I'll sit and I'll visualize what I want as if I already have it. This is how I got it. It's just how it works. I've got pictures in the back of my planner here and of things that have been in here for 20 years. And I'll tell you this, these first pictures are my gratitude pictures because my kids are 30 and 26. These are pictures of my kids when they were young, because everything you get in life through prayer or visualization or manifestation comes from gratitude, right? But then I've got the pictures of things that I wanted, all of which I've gotten. I built that house. Did I tell you? No, I didn't tell you about that. I built, I built this 20 years, I built this $8 million mansion on the beach, which was unthinkable when I was 18, but I visualized it, I made it happen. Now I lost that house and all the craziness. I mean, that house was spectacular. But now I have a compound and it's 6 buildings. I've got, big main house. I got a guest house on the water. I've got a media building where I do my virtual training and, exercise facility and on. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see that old house, that $8 million house across the bay that I lost. It's literally right across the bay. Wow. It's hilarious. But what's interesting is this top picture looked just like that house on the beach. This bottom picture, look at that. I don't know if you can see those white walls in the bottom picture. Okay. Yep. Look at this is my backyard. See the white wall? Isn't that crazy? Yep. This is again, it's the exact same white wall. This is 22 years ago, and then I've got other things that I wanted, stupid stuff. Like I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches. That's still a vice, but and I got all the stupid stuff that I thought was important, like the cars, the Lamborghini, the Rolls Royce, the Bentley. I got all this stuff because I had pictures, and again, please don't judge me by that. That stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. But at the time it did, and I got it. So whatever you want, get pictures, put them around you, visualize you having them, because that's how you get this stuff, guys. It's how it works.
Yeah, that makes sense. And thank you for being human, because sometimes people want to come in and pretend that they did it perfect and that they not fall for the shiny objects, and we all do it, which
I've made every mistake you can possibly make. In fact, at my boot camps, I say, don't do that. Ask me how I know. And I said it so many times, when my students got me a shirt that says #ask me how I know. And now we sell those at my boot camps. #ask me I know. No, you'll hear everything from me, all of the mistakes I've made. And anyone that doesn't tell you the mistakes is probably lying about other things too, honestly, No,
that makes sense. So today you probably have a team that, is handling most of the things. So what do you enjoy today about real estate? Like you like analyzing, finding, talking about the money. What's your thing?
I love real estate. I mean, we just put a $15 million deal under contract today. It's a small deal actually for us. We've got another one that we're putting an offer in for 40 million next week. And I know these numbers are going to intimidate some of you listening. Don't let it. Okay. Listen, I started with a house for $30,000 when I was 18. You can do this. Okay. Trust me. I didn't go to college. I barely passed high school, And I'm going to tell you, I was a reader, though. I love to read. I've got a big library here. I believe in that. I did lots of boot camps over the years and masterminds and in fact, if you make me a co-host, I'll show you a picture real quick. That it's at least for the people on Zoom, and I can describe it for the people. I'm sorry, on YouTube, and I can describe it for the people on. Can you make me a co-host? You just go into next to my name and you can make me a co-host, and and then that'll allow me to share, and I'll okay, there you go. Let me show you this picture. So there's some of the boot camps and masterminds that I've gone to over the years. Now, those of you that can't see this, I'm standing there with my arms stretched out, and I have hundreds of lanyards from events that I've gone to that that's my education. I didn't go to college, but learners are earners. Now, of course, to be a little egotistical, I'm in front of my Bentley and one of my Mercedes, but the point is this stuff works, guys. And so You got to continue to learn and grow and read and, and want more. Listen to my podcast, listen to Kat's podcast. And that's how that's how you demystify this. Now, if you can come to my boot camp, for God's sakes, just come. It's $200. And, and it's not a sales pitch. And again, if you want to come, text my name, Rod, to 72345. So text Rod to 72345. And just remember the code Rod's friend. If the price has gone up, you can still get the 197. And then if you want to learn more and you can't make the boot camp, you maybe want to do the goal setting, go to rodslinks.com. And I've got all sorts of free books there, free resources. I've got a #1 bestseller in multiple categories that if you just pay the shipping, we'll send you the physical copy. Then I've got free PDF books that are truly some of the best in the business. I'm writing books all the time and I'm holding these up. I've got like 12 inches worth of books that I give away for free. Videos, articles, I believe in adding so much value that people are overwhelmed and they're like, okay, well, if he gives all that away for free, maybe I should come to his boot camp. So, there you go. But
no, I love that. I think I can definitely tell that you are a giver and that you're really passionate about empowering others to have a piece of what you have in their own version of whatever that looks like. Yeah. So let me ask you, as you start wrapping up, if you could go back, what would you like to know then that you know now before you started?
I asked that question. I asked that question on my show as well. And I ask it for a very specific reason because, I interview people that have thousands of multifamily units. I mean, as many as 100,000, 20,000, tons of them with 5,000 units. And I ask that question because I always get the same answer. And that's the reason I ask. I say, if you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self something about this business, what might you do differently? Because I expect this answer and I want people to hear it. And it's almost always go bigger, faster. And that's why I asked the question. Okay. Because almost everybody starts with a house or a duplex, but they stay there too long. I really took me a long time to get the memo. I did 2,000 houses before I got a lot of multifamily. And my God, if I'd have just done multifamily, I'd be doing this on the back of my 300-foot yacht right now, Kat. So, but that's it. But you know what? I want to share one other thing. If you just humor me for a minute. Okay. I talked about that big house I built on the beach, right? Okay. Yeah. And just as an example of goals that you want to set for yourself, don't limit yourself when you do the goal setting exercise. And if you have me guide you through it, you'll hear me say that again. Don't limit yourself. Take the lid off your brain. Because when I was 18, it was almost unimaginable for me to have an $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. I lived in Denver, but I knew I wanted to live on the beach and there's no beach in Denver. So I visualized it for 20 years. Yeah. So, but and this house is magnificent. I owned the beach on one side. I had my boat lifts on the back side. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was like a slice through an island. And just to describe the house, I had a waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Pool was in magazines, big spiral staircase, giant spiral staircase up to the middle of the house, elevator, wine cellar. On the second, I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums that wrapped around the spiral staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. So I worked for it for 20 years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove the world I was good enough. And I'm looking up at this magnificent home. And so this is 2 months after I moved in, something I'd worked for 20 years. And I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little bummed. I mean, I was really bummed. I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success like times 1,000. I had my beautiful family sleeping inside. I had a Maserati. I had Mercedes. I had the boats, the jet skis, all the stuff. And what I realized when I looked back on it is there were several things happening. Well, number one is it's never about the goals. You need the goals to create that burning desire, but it's about your growth on your path to the goal. So that's number one. And happiness doesn't come from the goals. They say the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell their boat. Okay. And that's the truth because I've owned boats, but happiness comes from progress and growth. Okay. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. I didn't have a vision for the future. Okay. So that was the second thing. But the third big thing was I'd been totally focused on me. Rod, show the world I'm good enough, show the world I matter. And so I went out and bought some books to get myself back. And, I got Dale Carnegie and, Napoleon Hill, and I got a Tony Robbins book. And I started reading Tony's book. I'm like, man, I really like this. And so I went and saw him live. This is 22 years ago. And I saw he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. But I called my brother And I said, let's feed 5 families, because I was going to Denver. I was living in Florida. I said, I'm going back to Denver to see my brother for Thanksgiving and my family. I said, let's feed 5 families. So he went to his church and found 5 families that really needed help. And the 3rd family changed my life, Kat. So we bought turkeys for them. We bought toys for their kids if they had kids. We bought big baskets of food, and it was just awesome. It was a lot of fun. But I go up to this 3rd family, and by the way, it was in the same neighborhood where I bought that first house. In fact, it was a piece of crap just like that. Now that's triggering that memory. It's literally within a couple blocks of that house. But this was, she lived in this one, it wasn't even a 1-bedroom, it was a crappy 1-bedroom. You had to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which had the bathroom off of it. And she was in there with 5 kids. Wow. And she comes out and she sees the food and stuff, and she starts crying. And then her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. And then I start crying, and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say, Kat, in the last 22 years, we've fed 110,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies for local kids that don't have the basic supplies they need for school. And I'm not saying this stuff to brag. There's a message here. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for officers to keep in their cars in case they encounter a child that's been traumatized. And I'm going to tell you that I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement is a science. If you want to learn multifamily, just come see me. I'll give you the map and the blueprint. You just got to go do it. Okay. There's no secret sauce. I will just teach it to you and you go do it. But fulfillment is an art. You've got to find something you're passionate about. For me, it's kids. It could be the elderly. It could be the environment. It could be animals, whatever, and give back right now. Now, if you're listening or watching this and you've got blood dripping from your teeth, you want this success so bad, and you say to yourself, yeah, I'll do it when I have the money. No, big mistake. Do it right now. I don't care if you don't have the money, you go give your time. Why? Because it'll come faster. The money will come faster. The success will come faster. Now, you don't do it for that reason, but what you give, God gives it back to you 100-fold, 1,000-fold. And that's just how it works. But so pick something you're passionate about and give right now. See, we've been taught to achieve, to be happy. Like we shouldn't be happy until we've achieved. I'm going to tell you, when you give back, you're happily achieving. So I'll leave you with that.
So good. So good. I know that people will be listening and rewinding and taking notes, because you share so much about what really matters. Yes, the business, we all really passionate about real estate. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening or watching. But the big part is, most of the people that listen are people that are multi-passionate and they want to give back. So I'm glad that you reminded us that we can start giving now at the level that we are. And I love that you started with 5 families and it made a difference for them. So we'll make sure to add all the links and the text on the show notes so people can connect with you. Definitely connect and subscribe to your podcast, because it sounds like it's really amazing. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for allowing us to get a brief look behind the man that is doing great things.
I appreciate that. I love your energy, and it's been a real treat for me to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, guys, there you have it. I hope that you take notes. I will definitely recommend that you listen and watch this at least twice. Take notes and then go to Rod's links and connect with him and see what he's doing. This is the REI Friends podcast, where we bring you not just the numbers in real estate, but actually things that are going to make your life better. Thanks so much for listening. Please know that I love you, that I'm rooting for you, and I'm going to see you super duper soon. Bye.